Applied linguistics. The benefits of extensive reading or big reading, module 4. Here we go. Unit 4. So I have an opening question here for you and for me. And that question is, are you learning language in the wrong way, walking down the street and about to fall into a manhole? I hope not. And the next question, am I teaching language the wrong way? Or if you're a language teacher, or you want to be a language teacher, are you teaching language the wrong way? And so this brings me to my main point, which I will read. It's about extensive reading or big reading. Extensive reading, big, easy, fun reading, works as a best supported learning technique and teaching technique, a cornerstone for language teaching and language learning. It can also help learners in physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and linguistic ways, as we will see as I give this talk here. So what do the experts say? Well, one question that we can ask the experts is, how can we best improve the way we teach or learn? And Paul Nation says it's to create an extensive reading program. To do an extensive reading program if you're a teacher, do extensive reading in your teaching, in your classes. If you're a student, do extensive reading. If you're an administrator of a school, set up a program for the whole school to do extensive reading. If you're in charge of education for your whole country, have your whole country do extensive reading. It's the best way you can improve how you teach and learn a second language. Stephen Krashen says it's the best supported technique we have in the field of second language teaching or pedagogy. Paul Nation says an extensive reading program is the cornerstone of any well thought out language course. And Dr. Rob Waring says it is a completely indispensable part of any language program. It's essential. Extensive reading is important. So that raises the question, what is it? What is extensive reading? Well, I'd like to use the word be to define it. So the word be has this nuance of a meeting for communal enjoyment. So you might have a spelling bee where people get together and they enjoy practicing spelling, or a quilting bee where people get together and they make quilts. A reading bee would be people getting together to read together. And so this idea of reading bee is kind of interesting, because in a reading bee, you commune in 3 ways. You commune with the author. When you read an author's book, you meet them. It's a meeting of the mind, or meeting of minds. When you read fiction, you meet story characters. And when you read books with other people, you commune and meet with other readers. So big reading is a reading bee. And the letters B, B-E-E, stand for these 3 things: big, easy, and enjoyable. So these 3 key points are the words that I like to use to define extensive reading. What is extensive reading? Well, first of all, it's big. So how do we measure big? We measure big with words. And so a few words or a few books is not big. Some research says that there's a breakthrough point when you read 300,000 words. So you could be doing big reading, but once you've reached 300,000 words, you've had a breakthrough. 300,000 words, and after 300,000 words, according to the research of Nishizawa and others, you start to read English without translating. It comes in as a live broadcast. You don't translate anymore, and you gain confidence. And then after 300,000 words, you can measure the results on standardized tests such as the TOEFL or TOEIC, as we will see later. Well, here's the question. If you read X number of words, it's like living abroad for 1 year. What is X? And X is going to be big. So how many words do you need to read for you to get the same results as living in an English-speaking country, for example, if you're studying English? Well, according to Nishizawa et al., it's 2 million words. Previously, he said 3 million, but in his recent research through personal communication, he has told me that 2 million words at the right level will allow you to experience the same results on a standardized test as if you had lived in an English-speaking country for 1 year. 2 million words. And you can calculate how long that will take you. If you're working commuting, you can do that on the train every day for a year or a couple of years, and you'll have lived abroad for 1 year. virtually. Well, let's talk about easy. What is easy? With easy, we think about this idea of coverage. How does your vocabulary, your current vocabulary power or ability, how does it cover a text? So extensive reading is big, easy reading. So what percentage of the words do we need to know to read easy? Answer. 95% makes it readable, but 98% is kind of the magic number. So you can struggle through a text at 95% coverage, knowing 95% of the words in a text, but 98% is the magic number. Imagine a text of 1,000 words. That's 4 pages, A4 size. If you know 95% of the words, that means in 4 simple pages you will meet 50 unknown words. That's a lot. And with 98% coverage, still the magic number, you'll still meet 20 unknown words. But the key point is that when you know 98% of the words, you can guess the unknown words from context, and you might even be able to do that at 95% coverage, but it's a little bit difficult. Let's take a look at a text where you will have 70% coverage. So here's a text where you would have 70% coverage. I'm going to read it really fast. In Opiae without Adurmundi, Powling are bound to speak their buttles. In these places, benevolence are not may not jarvis what the polling holt. If they do not jarvis what the polling holt, they cannot respond to their dowricks and duffins. Moreover, without Adurmundi, Hubbards do not have to worry so much about descripting what the Powling louder. Perhaps some benevolents do not allow Adurmundi because they do not holt to be astrigeny. They may fear vicary would happen if polling had stais courant. If you're like me, you did not understand this text because the red words are nonsense words, and this is what it's like when you know 70% of the words in a text. Boo, not good. Which camera should I look at? Okay, so let's look at a text where there's 95% coverage. So here it is. In countries without free speech, people are banned to speak their buttles. In these places, governments may not know what the people want. If they do not know what the people want, they cannot respond to their dowricks and desires. Moreover, without free speech, politicians do not have to worry so much about what the people louder. Perhaps some governments do not allow free speech because they do not want to be accountable. They may fear vicary would happen if people had more information. So now we can kind of guess people are banned to speak their buttles. So people are free. People are open to speak their desires. What the people louder, that sounds like what they want. So you can kind of guess at the meaning when you know more of the context. So big easy reading is easy when you know 98% of the words on every page. Well, what's enjoyable? When we talk about big easy reading being enjoyable, what is enjoyable? Well, it's like, first of all, it's the level's right? If it's too hard, it's not enjoyable. So that's one basic thing. We also can get extrinsic benefits, helpful information about the world. So that can be kind of enjoyable. But most of all, we get intrinsic rewards. The reward is play, especially with fiction. So with reading, it can be like play. It is play. So pleasure reading is a form of play, according to Victor Nell. So big reading is primarily, but not only pleasure reading, and that means fiction. Pleasure reading is a form of play. It is a free activity standing outside ordinary life. It absorbs the player completely. So the point is, extensive reading is play, and play motivates. Think about play. You don't have to be told, I'm going to go out and play. You must play now. If you want to play, you play. And people usually have to stop playing because they play too much or they want to play too much. So play is a good way of thinking about extensive reading, big, easy, fun reading. And if we can find books and stories that are interesting enough, it can turn into a play experience. Let's look at some more of the benefits. And these are benefits that I talk about at my website, readoasis.com. With big reading, you can get more playful pleasure through stories, as I just said. But you can also make yourself smarter. So big reading helps you increase your general intelligence for living in the world. It increases your practical knowledge about living in the world. So it makes you get smarter. You get smarter about money. You get smarter about health. So I mentioned at the beginning, it can affect you physically. If you read about how to live a healthy life, you can learn how to live a healthy life, and that affects you physically. You can learn about how to make money or how to make friends. So that affects you economically and socially and so forth. You can grow your economic or financial intelligence, your health intelligence, your emotional intelligence. Reading fiction also grows emotional intelligence. And with big reading, you can learn the keys of happiness and the good life. What is good? What is right? We can learn these things by reading big. And of course, as a language teacher and a language learner, we think about how it affects language learning. And so I'd like to claim that when you read big, you grow your language superpowers. So here are some examples of how big reading can help people grow their language superpowers, some language benefits. So big reading can correlate highly with TOEFL or TOEIC performance. Here's an example for 101 pre-university ESL students. Extracurricular reading, ER, correlated most highly with TOEFL performance. So those who read the most got the higher scores on the TOEFL. And then there's this case study here with this actor representing Kenta. This is not the real Kenta, but Kenta is a real person. And he was studied by Benrico Mason. And Kenta's TOEIC jumped from 625 to 795. He gained 175 points. That's 0.87 points for every hour of reading from Mason 2014. A case study that correlates well with this large-scale study from Gradman and Hanania. So it helps you improve on tests. And so some of these people who got these high scores didn't study for the test. They just read a lot. And that's more fun than hitting yourself over the head with a large test prep book. Language benefits relating to writing skills. Can playful ER improve your writing skills? Well, Hafiz and Tudor, 1989, did a 3-month ER experiment. The results showed a marked improvement in the performance of experimental subjects, those who did ER, especially in terms of writing skills. Big readers are good at writing. Language benefits. Now, students will usually say this: hello, excuse me, wait a minute, time out. I want to talk about something. All my students talk like that. I want to learn listening and speaking, not just reading. Typical student throwing up the yellow card to the teacher. And the question then becomes, can big reading help improve listening and speaking skills? Right? Is that going to help you? Well, with Ellie's 1992 famous book flood research done in 103 schools in Singapore, experimental students, those who read a lot, outperformed the control students in vocabulary, grammar, reading, writing, and listening comprehension. So big reading can help your listening. It provides a basis, a foundation for language knowledge that you can access through your ears. And also there's something called audiobooks, which help you improve your listening skills as well, as long as they're at the right level. Audiobooks need to be even easier than the 98% rule I previously mentioned. Lastly, we talk about books and stories. Today I was reading a good book. I couldn't help but wanting to share it with others. It was so good. I told about my brother about it. I told another friend about it. When we read, we like to talk about books and stories. So of course, reading relates to speaking. Well, that is all I have for today. Thank you for listening. The last slide is a list of my references in the fine print.